All right.
About that group coming in. Pretty good news about that group coming into the island.
Yes, yeah. Okay, we ready to rock and roll?
See, it all started over here. Mines. That airport with Lenny. That's it.
That's it. Well, that's he's like driving in Florida, right? Okay, we're hot. All right. Let's look professional. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the continuation of the regular business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. We went into open session at 6:31, followed by an hour in closed session. So we are ending our recess and returning to closed session, but I'll call us back to order at 7:36. And let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, once again, thanks for coming tonight. Those of you watching at home, thanks for sharing an evening with us. We have the board present except for Clerk Ranka, who is excused, so we're ready for business. Begin with additions, deletions to the agenda. Are there any proposed additions or deletions? With none offered, I will move we approve the agenda as published.
Support.
Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Those in favor of moving with the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands as published. At this time, we have a presentation. Life-saving awards. Is it just one chief? Both chiefs?
No, just the one, Chief.
Just the one chief.
If you indulge me just for a moment, I'm not going to take up a lot of time of the board.
Chief, this is good stuff. Take all the time you need.
Kind of an overview of what happened a few weeks ago. Fire department responded to numerous calls, but three in particular. They had 3 priority 1 calls in a matter of about 36 hours. One was a respiratory distress going to cardiac arrest, and then two full cardiac arrests. Just to give you an overview, without violating any HIPAA laws, all 3 patients walked out of the hospital. One did walk out of the hospital with a pacemaker. But we did get some calls at the station from family members, and I couldn't understand a word they said, because all it was crying on the phone. I couldn't even call them back. So at the present time, I got Russ Boudry, Andrew Huber, which is one of our rookies, and Chris Davenport is one of our paramedics. And these are 3 of 7, I think 7 guys that were on Grosse Ile's Bravo 2 rig that responded to these calls. And they were all done with professionalism, courtesy, and customer service in mind. And I have a bunch of awards here. I'm going to hand them to the fire marshal to take them back to the station with us tonight or tomorrow and hand these out, because there's a lot of them to hand out. But there's, I think Russ and Andrew and Chris were on multiple calls. They were involved in multiple calls that weekend. So I just want the board to recognize this group, along with Tim Lorraine, Kim Richardson, Dave Hill, Jimmy Proctor, and Jason McManus. Also, they had previous engagements tonight, but all were on crews that night, and they did one fine job. They brought back 3 of our residents back to us in a pretty timely fashion. And I know that the supervisor had an opportunity to witness one of these in action. So it's one of the great things. We're not big on Falderall and all this kind of stuff, but I felt this was an unusual situation with 3 of them multiples, and I felt this should be addressed with the board, and the board should be aware of what these teams are out there doing in the middle of the night. So, and that's the long and short. So take these back with us. There's a ton of them. So.
Well, Chief, as I said at the last meeting, I watched in awe as the teams worked between the police and the fire. Police were there first, stabilized the situation. Russ, you were one of the first responders with the fire crews, wasn't fire, but the rescue, and it was step back and watch the professionals work, and it was
and you
awesome.
touched base on that, Mr. Supervisor. The police and fire, which is a very unusual combination. You don't hear of it downriver, police and fire working together, but it's almost like we're one giant team.
They were an integrated team. That's what I saw.
Well
It was
together, and it's a pleasure having the police department blazed the way for us. You know, finding the household, getting things started, so we can come in and advance the treatment. So, but police department, thank you, Joe. They're a big help to us, and they're definitely part of the life-saving key. So,
Well, for those of you watching at home, this is our first line of defense. These are our first responders. We're lucky in this community to have that team.
and for all the new residents out there, be advised, this is a volunteer fire department. We get a lot of question and answer during open house, and, you know, we were always told that we're paid too much, and, you know, you don't work enough days a month, and I always correct them by saying, we're volunteer and we work around the clock, so, but the residents need to know this is a volunteer system, so.
All right, we're still working on them to fill out their file of life and keep that to make your job a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
Mr. Posias, do you?
Yeah, I have a comment. Well done, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Some parts of the job are better than others.
Amen.
Okay, at this time, we'll open up, the action items have been published in the paper. Those of you who are interested are aware of them. This is your opportunity to speak publicly on your ideas, comments, concerns on the action items for tonight's evening. So if there's anyone in the public present who wants to comment on an action item, please step forward. Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. You have a number 4 application for Wayne County for permit for sign installation of West Jefferson and Bridge. What's that about?
It's
What,
it's your item.
if I may, that's about putting a sign at a bridge in West Jefferson indicating that you're welcome to Groseal.
South or North Bridge?
South or north.
The toll bridge, Grosse Ile Toll Bridge.
Toll Bridge.
Coming on, yeah, there's, if you notice, and I've had a lot of discussion about this, that there isn't a lot of signage around showing where Groseal is. And the Groseal Bridge Company offered to buy and pay for the installation of a sign so that people could see where Groseal is.
So this is out at Jefferson?
This is out at Jefferson and Bridge, right at the entrance.
On
Bridge-
Jefferson.
On Bridge Road there in Jefferson. And I have, we have some pictures, I don't know if they'll,
Well, we can
We'll try and put
we can put them up there when the action item
when
comes
we
up.
do it, you'll
Okay.
see what it looks like going south or going north.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I didn't know,
Yeah.
you said bridge, I didn't know if you meant the South Bridge or the North Bridge.
Oh,
And if it's a
the toll
neon
bridge.
sign or what it is?
Yeah, it's not a neon sign.
It's essentially identical to the sign that's by the county bridge.
Too bad we can't have a neon sign like Gibraltar does, because they have a sign that
Yeah, it catches
you
your
go into their
attention,
tower
doesn't
and it comes flashing at you.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, the other one is about the bid for fire truck. The bid for the fire truck?
Fire truck, yes.
I called Duncan earlier and he explained it to me, and maybe he explained it to the people. How much it costs and.
He'll be
why it's for.
making his sales pitch later this evening.
Okay, all right, so that's about it.
Yeah, we're not rubber stamping it. He's going to be up here making a presentation. Okay, any other comments? Yes, sir. I'm sorry I don't recall your name, but you have spoken before.
Jonathan Hocking, 8620 Stout. I just want to comment about the signs, and this might be off the subject or near the subject, so I apologize if I'm not on subject, is when I talk to people, I have to keep naming cities until I can get close to Grosse Ile. So if someone wants to know where Grosse Ile is, I usually start with Wyandotte, or then I start naming other cities like Gibraltar until if they're from out of the area. So I don't know if that's an internet thing or something, but a lot of people do not know where Grosse Ile is if they're from another area. I get around a little bit, so a sign will help, but I don't know if there's any other thing to broadcast Grosse Ile or inform for whatever reason. Thank you.
Okay, we're looking for ideas, so if you know of any, let me know.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, I know that with their new website that's going to be coming, the search engine optimization will definitely help with that.
Very good.
Yep, as far as
Well,
internet.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully, we're moving in the right direction in that. Any other public comment on tonight's action items? All right, with none offered, we will move on to consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to propose a motion to approve consent agenda 13-111, which includes the approval of the minutes of the September 9th, 2013 meeting and the approval of the check register dated September 20th, 2013.
Support.
Okay, have a motion and support discussion on the consent agenda among the board. Comments? Nothing offered. Those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Consent agenda is approved. Now we'll move on to action items. And, well, I'll start with the tax levy. Always good stuff. Okay. Recommend Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees levy on the taxable value of Grosse Ile Township for the year 2013 winter billing a tax of 9.5302 mils on the taxable value thereof, said value being $557,682,883.
Support.
Okay, the motion is to approve. It's seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Okay, the background, it's just straight out of the state statutes. Each unit of local government computes tax rates in accordance with Section 211.34D, that's out of the compiled laws, 211.34, and governing body certifies that rates comply with Section 31, Article 9 of the 1963 Constitution, that's the State of Michigan Constitution, and Section 214.24E, Truth in Taxation, on State Tax Commission Form L4029 on or before September 30th. Should any of the millages receive voter approval on November 5th, and remember we have 4 coming up, a special meeting of the Board of Trustees will need to occur to adopt a revised L4029 tax levy request to submit to Wayne County and to proceed with preparing the 2013 winter tax roll. And be advised, township offices will be closed on Monday, November 11th in honor of Veterans Day. Comments among the board? Again, it's straightforward. We have 4 voter-approved millages. 1 is a new. We have 3 are up for renewal. The rest of the 9.5 mills are legal tax levies, and we have to approve it, put it out, and begin collecting it for the winter tax rates. So this will require a roll call vote. Any other questions, comments for the board? All right, with none offered, begin the roll call vote, and I'll start with Mrs. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Buddy?
Aye.
Mr. Posiask?
Aye.
Mr. Malvesto?
Aye.
Treasurer Van Oss?
Aye.
Okay, Supervisor Loftus, aye. The motion carries. And we'll probably have a special meeting for the voter-approved millages. Moving on, action item number 2. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to award a bid to Ladner Elevator Company, the lowest bidder in the amount of $115,525 for the elevator upgrade at the wastewater treatment plant, based on the recommendation of the Charles E. Raines Company and the DPS Commission.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss.
Good evening.
Thank you, Barry.
This elevator has been in operation over at the plant since about 1980, as you can tell by reading the history. We've had a lot of problems with this elevator. In fact, we had to call the service today to get a man trapped between floor 1 and 2. So this has been an ongoing issue for us. This elevator transports personnel and equipment from the first floor down 4 levels. So when you look at the treatment plant, it looks like it's on the surface. Nothing goes up. It all goes down. So there's actually 4 levels below the surface where we have to get manpower and equipment out of. So basically, it's long overdue for upgrade, and that's why we're here tonight.
And that's a good example, the personnel being in the elevator. That's happened on numerous occasions.
It has. Yeah, it has. In fact, it's happened at the plant when there's only one person in the plant, and that's the guy that's trapped in the elevator. So it's a good thing the cell phones work in that elevator, so we can get somebody in here and get them out. So needs replaced.
And, yeah, and just a little other information, as you see on the attached sheet, there were only 2 bidders, and Lardner was the low bidder.
Notice both these bids were very close, unlike some of the subsequent bids that are out where there's a wide disparity. So that just kind of got my attention. These bids were very close, and the other ones we'll see are just all over the place. So,
Yep.
well, we are going to keep that plant running. Questions, comments from the board? All right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you, Mr. Budney or Barry, would you explain where these funds derive from?
These funds come from the reserve capital improvements that are in the wastewater treatment plant. Over the past numerous years, I don't know how many now, there's $105,000 that's put into capital improvements in the wastewater treatment plant every year. So as these amounts accumulate, it allows us to make improvements and stuff in the wastewater treatment plant without too much burden on the community.
Any impact on rates?
No.
These are just questions that people ask me.
How are we going to pay for it? Well, with a capital improvement plan,
Yep.
with these funds being sequestered, these funds being set aside for this capital improvement plan, it allows us to make these repairs on a timely basis without either bonding, borrowing, or some other shell game. So
That's correct.
we know we have the source of income, we know we're going to be fixing things, and the plant keeps running without interruption.
That's right.
It's the way it's supposed to be. Other questions, comments from the board? With none offered, those in favor of awarding the bid to Lardner Elevator Company in the amount of $115,525 for the elevator upgrade at the wastewater treatment plant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? All right, thank you. Repair will be on the way. And Mr. Bundy, would you continue, please?
I would love to. I'd like to make a motion to award a bid to DA Mechanical LLC, lowest bidder in the amount of $45,255 for the AC unit replacement and the RBC unit removal at the wastewater treatment plant based on the recommendation of Charles E. Raines Company and the DPS Commission.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bundy and seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. For another wastewater treatment project, Mr. Sedlock.
Yes, and in here, this is a project that's long overdue also. This rooftop unit on the top of the lab building actually controls the temperature inside our lab building itself. A lot of our tests that we run in that lab building are temperature sensitive, and it's important that we keep the temperatures at certain parameters to get accurate and reliable tests. When these temperatures get out of the normal area, our tests can actually become a little unreliable. So this particular piece of equipment needs to be replaced. I have a picture here. This is actually a picture of the unit that's actually going to be replaced on top of the lab building. So as you can tell, let me see if I can. Yeah, that whole complete square box unit will be removed and a new one will be put in its place.
Okay, this also, let's see, this contract also, the rotating biological contactors. And I remember that was a topic of discussion, we put the bid out to replace those. Is this just removal of the old
Yes,
equipment?
and that's the unit that's in the picture right now. That sits on the rooftop of the RBC building, and all it was there for originally was to move air within that building to keep the air fairly clean. Hasn't been used in over 20 years. So basically, all we're going to do now is remove that rooftop unit and cap the opening for anything future that needs to be done. And included in this, too, there's a little bit of asbestos abatement. So.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board on this replacement project? Mr. Treasurer?
Funding the same source?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My second question would be, why the difference between the bids and the actual bid price? You've got DA Mechanical at $39,154, and the contract price is for
$45,000.
$45,000. Why the difference?
You're talking 45 versus 56? Is that
No.
what
No,
you're-
If you look on the bid sheet,
it's shown as 39.
Oh, okay, yeah. There was in their bid contract, it was written in there that there was an addition that we didn't see when we opened the bids. And that added to that original amount, made it 45. But it was written in the bid contract as an alternate, but they skipped it when they read it, and they didn't add the two together. And the other people had the two combined. So when we put the two amounts together, it came up to 45.
You're still the low bidder by
Yeah.
a significant
Yeah.
margin.
Significant amount.
just make sure both of those are in the file copy of this, so that if we
Sure.
have to go back to it with a question, we got it.
They'll be there.
Okay. Other questions, comments for Mr. Sedlak or Mr. Budney? None offered. Those in favor of awarding the bid to DA Mechanical LLC, lowest bidder, in the amount of $45,255 for the AC unit replacement and the RBC unit removal at the wastewater treatment plant, please signify by saying aye.
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. That motion carries. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thanks, Dale. Like to make a motion to authorize the township engineer to apply to Wayne County for a sign installation permit on West Jefferson near the toll bridge entrance in the city of Riverview, based on the recommendation of the DPS Commission.
Support.
Okay, moved by trustee Budney and seconded by trustee Smith.
Little history on this. A few months ago, I was approached by some representatives of the Groseal Bridge Company to discuss a number of things, one of them being signage. We're discussing a number of signs, but this one we thought was the most important and wanted to get it moving. And the discussion goes around as this gentleman said, you drive around the downriver area, or if you're coming off of 275 or something, there's no signage to Groseal. There's absolutely none. You go all the way down Sibley, get to the end of Sibley and have to turn, there's not even a sign there to tell you Groseal this way or that way. And if you're not familiar with where we are, you don't know what you're doing. So the Groseal Bridge Company offered to purchase the sign and pay for the installation. But as part of that process, there has to be an application made to Wayne County. The person who makes, or the entity that makes the application, becomes the owner and is in charge of the sign. They didn't want to be having to take care of the sign infinitum, which makes sense. The top picture up there shows you, a rendering of what the sign is proposed to be like, it says, Groseal, deeded 1776, with an arrow which would point up Bridge Road, has a little sign in there showing a bike route, which I thought Wally would like. And then it does have, compliments of Groseal Bridge Company underneath it, much like at the county bridge, I believe it says compliments of DTE, who put up the sign. So I thought it was a good idea. The DPS Commission thought it was a good idea. They're willing to pay for the sign and the installation. I thought it was a good deal. It would go, the picture below, I think shows if you were coming up, going north on Jefferson, it's right at that corner. And there was another picture in our packet showing if you were going south on Jefferson, and it certainly should be visible by everybody coming that way. I think it'd be a nice addition. We're talking about promoting Groseal. It'd be nice if people knew where it was. So this sign is the start.
I've got a little
Yeah.
bit interesting history. As we all remember, a former trustee and Pam Frucci had been convening entryway improvement committee meetings. And actually, she, working with DTE and Bert Urbani, got the cleanup done at the county bridge and the sign, which is very similar to this from Townsend Neon. And continuing, she moved to the bridge at the north end, worked with Mr. Smoke and the bridge company. Now he's willing to pay for the sign, we get the permitting, we get the sign installed. Again, I believe it's identical to the sign at the county bridge. But Pam has been working on this. If you've worked with her for a while, she doesn't give up. There's also opportunity to celebrate the 100th year of operation of the Grosse Ile Toll Bridge, which will be this November. So we'd like to have this sign in place in time for that 100-year celebration,
If at all possible.
if possible. So, any comments, questions from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of authorizing the township engineer to apply to Wayne County for a sign installation permit on West Jefferson near the toll bridge entrance in the city of Riverview, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? It carries. Very good. We're moving along. Okay, next action item, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a propose a motion to purchase an airwave playback system from Tel Systems of Ann Arbor, Michigan for $14,425. This is a sole provider computerized playback system.
Support. Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. Lauren, are you going to,
Well, I'll give you a little bit of history
bring
here,
Mr.,
but I'm definitely going to have to bring up Mr. Fournier for his expertise. But basically, the airwave system will replace the present Laytronics, and I'm sure this means nothing to any of us, playback system. But our system has been down for a number of years, and we've had a loaner in place, I think, for what?
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. So it's pretty significant. So it's time to replace this. And this was approved by the Communications Commission at the September 11th meeting. It's really kind of long overdue, and one of the things that I'd like to remind everybody about when we were going through the budget approval process, and we did ask for the additional funds, was basically to redo the technology within the communications department, and this was going to be in 3 phases, and this is the second of the 3 phases. So go ahead, Ted.
Just start off by answering Ted's anticipated question. This is a budgeted item that comes from cable franchise fees that we've been using over the years, and this year we're just using a little more. It's basically a computerized hard drive that's going to take us into the 21st century. It's going to allow us to have 20 times more storage space so that we can get a little more sophisticated professional look to the channel. Basically, the old system went on the Fritz 3 years ago, and Laytronics said they'd fix it, and while they were fixing it, they gave us a loaner. Well, they never called back, so we're still loaning it, and they're still fixing our other one. So
you couldn't milk that out a couple more?
It's on its last leg.
Okay, all right.
and
Time to go.
it's acting up every now and then and kicking programs out and kicking sound out. So yeah, it's time to go. So basically, like I said, we discussed this in March. It was approved in the budget, and yeah, we're going to purchase it now.
Will this possibly clear up the complaints I've heard over the years? Good video, lousy audio, lousy video, good audio changes in and out. Will this help clear that up? Maybe?
Do I have to swear like I'm a Boy Scout or something?
No, I'm just,
It depends where you are on the island and who you have. One provider has good audio and bad video, or lesser quality video. The other provider has better audio, or the other way around. Whatever I said, the opposite. So,
a little out of your spectrum.
What this is going to allow us to do is, whatever we record is going to go out in high definition. So it's going to what we send out is going to how Comcast and WOW send it back. It's up to Comcast and WOW.
Yeah. I think we're taking the appropriate steps to hopefully get to that place.
You're going to be
but-
broadcasting us in high definition?
You're going to, yeah, so it'll,
I'm going to be shaving for it, obviously.
Well, the signal will go out in high def, whether
Yeah,
the actual
Comcast-
service providers actually send it out on their end is a totally different story, and we don't have any control over
We're going to
that,
be
so
ready for whenever they catch up with the
That's right,
technology.
yeah.
Okay.
You did anticipate a question, but you anticipated the wrong question. The question that I had was, who in the world would loan you something for 3 years? But now I know.
Ted's pretty good at that.
I'm charmed. I have
He's
a lot of charm.
I think when you get to that term, it's no longer a loaner.
Yeah. One question, it seems like we're wrapping up a capital improvement plan all at once, within one budget year. And just for future planning between you and the commission, you know things have a lifespan. Would it be worth a while to start setting up a capital improvement plan for our communication capability, so that when you anticipate a piece of hardware or a capability reaching its life, that you will have compiled funds to fix it,
If
to
you
replace it?
indulge me in one paragraph, we discussed at the last Cable Commission meeting, this is my idea and I'm not pushing it on anybody, but it might be a time where the township considers all their IT purchases and all their IT costs and comes up with a IT budget on an annual basis, because the IT costs, to be honest with you, are just going to be going up and up as people want to use more and more IT. And we were discussing it at the meeting. I think there's a lot of hidden IT costs throughout everybody's budget, everybody's. And it might be prudent to, especially when you hold your annual review in October, it might be to start identifying what everybody's IT costs are, and plan ahead and have a continuing IT budget. That's just a suggestion, but I'm sure we'd be surprised if we added up all the IT hidden costs in all the different areas and find out what we actually as a township are spending on different IT services and product.
I had that parts of the same conversation with our representatives from Cygnus and an IT plan, and this is part and parcel of what you've brought up. When do I give up on my Windows XP in my computer? Probably about the same time I give up that computer. You're on Windows 7, are you not, at the fire department?
Yeah, the newest one, the second to the newest one.
Windows 7. I've been advised, you don't want to go, I've been advised, this is not a recommendation, but we don't want to go to Windows 8. It doesn't work well. It doesn't work well with computers. But we need the guidance. We need to be able to make the right decisions on our purchases. We need to have all the township entities able to communicate with each other. The software that's coming out for Windows 7 and newer platforms are not going to support XP, my Steam-driven box. So we need the IT plan. We need the IT capital improvement plan. It'll be something, we just need to move in that direction and make the right decisions, spend the money wisely.
I worked with a lady today in the township, and she's working on XP. So, and I'm not sure when XP came out. I think my kids weren't born yet, but I mean, that's what she's working on. And sometimes XP doesn't communicate with 7. And we got two different departments trying to talk to each other, and they can't. So, I just think that we'd be surprised if we found out what our total IT expenditures are, and it might be a good time to look at them and see. And I don't know if taking it out and making its own line item is the right way, but just some discussion on what to do from this point forward might be prudent.
Okay, well, we need, before I capitalize, and there's other comments, questions from the board.
Just to
Mrs.
add to
Smith.
what he was saying is, he did bring that up in our communications commission meeting, and I think all of us thought it was a great idea, because I think we all realize that there's, funds going every which way, and we kind of have to identify that and look at pooling our resources so that we make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So, maybe Ann and I can work on that together and bring something to a meeting and kind of talk about where we're at and where we should go from there. But as far as this particular purchase of what we're doing, we kind of did this in 1 year so that, well, one, because we have like archaic equipment, so it was a matter of you can't just replace one piece. You had to really replace all three of them. So it made sense, and plus it was a bundle package.
So we got a good deal on it.
We did.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Economies of scale. Other questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered. Those in favor of purchasing an airwave playback system from Tel Systems of Ann Arbor, Michigan for $14,425, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? Well, we're spending the money wisely. Number 6, Mr. Malvesto.
Mr. Supervisor, proposed motion or action is to, based on a request from the Community Recreation Commission and approved from the Public Service Commission, the Township Board is to award a contract to RVP Construction for drainage improvements at the Centennial Farm, and the Water's Edge Recreation facilities for the amount of $44,500.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Malvesto, and let's see, who did I hear first? I'll give this to Mr. Posias, seconded by Trustee Posias. Want to just hand the history over to Mr. Rooney?
I'm going to hand the history over to Mr. Rooney.
Okay. Back in April, we came before the DPS to ask them for some funding for some big public recreation facility projects. One at the two at the Centennial Farm by the dog park playground area. A lot of standing water, drainage problems for several years, and then on the east side of the recreation building. And then there's 2 ponds that are key to drainage over in the Water's Edge recreation facility. One by hole 3. And one by hole 9. And the commission was very supportive. We anticipated a need of about $38,000, brought the same information to the township board, and they gave us approval to go out for bid. And as you can see in your packet, we had 3 bidders come back, and like Supervisor said, there are some ones with wide ranges. In talking to the engineer, they feel very comfortable with RVP, but the range is $44,500 from RVP, Campo Brothers $85,000, and Pro Excavation $56,675. So quite a range, but in talking with our engineer, Sahio, and his staff, they feel comfortable with RVP. And it's about $6,100 over what we anticipated back in the spring. I'm trying to think here. The golf course project was about $8,000 we figured at the time in engineering estimates, and it came out to be $18,900. I think that probably involved hauling the waste off the site and widening the area a little bit for better drainage. We had an addendum on the bid packet. And then the Centennial Farm we estimated about $30,400. That came in around $25,600 with RVP. So there's their difference there. So $38,400 was the estimate, and we're at $44,500. But that impacts quite a few of our people, the number of people that use the Centennial Farm, the recreation area, the dog park, and then the ongoing drainage problems at the Water's Edge site.
Okay, any, for Mr. Rooney, while we have any questions, comments from the board? Actually, on number 9, I'd like some of my golf balls back, but I don't think you'll get enough out of there to make up the cost difference.
That's the 2 pond areas where the cost went up a little bit. I'd say about $10,000 more anticipated, and then, like I said, the farm was a little less than anticipated in costs.
Well, I know the dog park is extremely popular, and it will certainly be an asset to the residents if they can use it year-round without having to bathe their dog afterwards. Of course, we could put in a dog bath system, too, and maybe recoup some of the costs. Questions, comments from the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of awarding the bid, the contract to RVP Construction for drainage improvements at Centennial Farm and Water's Edge facilities in the amount of $44,500, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered?
Thank you very much.
That carries. Oh, this will move on to Treasurer Van Oss.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to hire Mrs. Carrie Lockwood as a full-time TPOAM cashier at a beginning hourly rate of $14.26 per hour, subject to the terms and conditions as detailed in the September 23rd, 2013 letter. Offer from the township manager to the current TPOAM current contract.
Okay. It's a motion by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney for a position hiring, and we'll have Mr. Riem fill us in on the process involved in this.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to report that initially we had, I think, 62 applicants, and internally we formed a screening committee, and it included myself, the finance director, finance assistant, payroll clerk, and the clerk's office election specialist. And we went ahead and initially screened these applicants down to 11 for interviews. And the way we did that, we did a resume review, if you will, and we neutralized the actual application as much as possible. We removed the name, anything related to gender, age, and they were all given a number. So it was a number with background, history, and experience. And there was a review sheet, resume review sheet, that scored all these different categories of items. And we created the short list. That short list will basically, it unifies or utilized the qualifications that we advertise, as well as the presentation of the application material. There are some review items for that. And created this short list, interviewed as a group, and the review committee is in recommendation in support of the candidate, and we definitely recommend the hiring of Carrie Lockwood. And not to put her on the hot seat, but Carrie is with us tonight, and I'd like to take the moment to introduce her to you, please.
Let's put her on the hot seat. Mrs. Lockwood, would you go up and introduce yourself? We'll get Ted to put the camera on because people are going to be coming down the hall looking for, you're going to be ready to go when the winter tax collection time comes.
Yeah, put me right to work.
This is absolutely. This way Mr. Frio can be freed up to work on election issues. I'm not going to say welcome aboard yet. We still have to vote on this, but you made it through an arduous screening process. Does anybody want to harass her a little bit before we vote?
I wouldn't mind. But yeah, you've already been collecting taxes over at PNC for us, so
I have.
You have some idea.
Yes.
Now, I just want to say I know Carrie from her working over at PNC, where I do some banking, and she's always been very courteous, very professional, very enthusiastic about her job, and I certainly would think we wouldn't necessarily be going wrong by hiring her.
Well, thank you.
Other questions, comments for either Mr. Riem or Mrs. Lockwood?
Okay. I'm here tonight with my husband, Rich. We've been married for 20 years. As Jim already mentioned, I've worked for PNC Bank here on the island for 1.5 years now, and we've been residents of Grosse Ile for 2.5 years. We moved from Ohio, and I'd just like to say that I'm very excited, and I thank you for this opportunity.
One more question.
Yes.
Converting to a Michigan fan, right?
Well, you really put me on the spot because I have nieces and nephews at Ohio State.
Okay.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
First, again, we haven't voted yet. Yeah, you did come up wearing a red jersey.
I have some Michigan items in my home.
Okay, well, maybe she suffered enough. Those are any other questions, comments from the board for either Mr. Riem or Mrs. Lockwood?
I'd just like to make a comment. Dale, the process was very well handled. You and Ann did a great job. I was wondering how you were going to get through 62 resumes, and the method that you picked was outstanding. I'm sure your choice will work out extremely well. And if the vote goes that way, welcome aboard.
Okay. Other comments? All right, with none offered, those in favor of hiring Mrs. Carrie Lockwood as a full-time TPOAM cashier, hourly rate of $14.25, subject to terms and conditions as detailed in the September 23rd letter of offer from the township manager and the current TPOAM contract agreement. Those in favor of hiring Mrs. Lockwood, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered? Mrs. Lockwood, welcome aboard. All right, moving on. Action item number 8, again, Mr. Malvesto.
Mr. Supervisor,
It's a recommendation of the Grosse Ile Fire Commission and the Grosse Ile Fire Department to award the contract for the purchase of a new pumper truck to Payette and Associates, KME. And again, it's for the purchase of the new pumper truck and its ancillary equipment. And once it's seconded, I'm going to ask Chief Murdoch to give the history and explanation.
Support.
Okay, moved by trustee Malvesto, seconded by trustee Smith. Quick on the uptake there. All right, Chief, sell us.
Well, we'll start out with the fact that this truck is about 6, probably by the time the new one arrives, if you vote yes for this, will probably be about 27 years old. Under our capital replacement plan, that's about 7 years past due. In light of the economic downturn over the last few years, the fire department, along with the board, chose to back off on any major expenditures. And as you remember, the fire department gave up 2 years of tax collection during that period of time. So you don't think I'm not telling the truth. This is our capital replacement plan. This takes care of all our big items in the fire department, along with all our big items with the actual facility itself. So we do track our costs during the course of a year. So it's a living, breathing document. That being said, the truck came in at about $772,000. But I need to break that down for you. There's miscellaneous equipment and things that we put on board this truck that made the cost of the truck go up. The initial cost of the truck is $772,000. The manufacturers offered us 3% savings if we pay up front, to a cost savings about close to $23,000. That's more than we're getting in the bank at the present time. We also have about $39,000 in updating the old set of jaws that we have on our current engine 4. If you remember, before we had bought a new electric set of jaws, we're just upgrading that other old set, so we have 2 complete sets of boron steel cutting jaws. Then, of course, there's miscellaneous equipment that's involved with the purchase of a new truck, just due to the fact of age of ladders, pike poles, certain nozzles, things of that nature that are 20-some years old. It's just time to get rid of it. So when the cost all comes down, you take the $23,000 out, you take the cost of the equipment out, the truck comes to about $697,000. And it's pretty close to a duplicate truck of the truck we bought about 8 years ago, because I like continuity within the department. So anybody comes up to that truck, they know how to run it. It's not confusing when you have 3 or 4 different trucks with 3 or 4 different pump panels. So the truck is right around $697,000. When we bought the truck 7 or 8 years ago, that's similar to the one that we're buying now. In fact, it's almost a duplicate. The cost difference is about $50,000. So over that 7 or 8 year period, there was a cost increase of roughly $50,000. At that point, we went ahead and I formed a committee, and I think we've been working on this, Ted, 2 years. We were back and forth on what we wanted to do, design features, and it was a committee of the firefighters on the fire department, the engineers, and this is what they came up with. This is the final spec for the pumper. This took 2 years to build, so there was definitely a lot of work that went into the project. At this point in time, financially, it is a budgeted item. Presently, we have about 1.1 in our equipment account. We're going to be expending that amount of money, with approximately $300,000 or $400,000 left, with 3 more collections over the next 3 years under of equipment. Ann and I discussed it this morning. We spend about $100,000 a year out of that equipment account for miscellaneous stuff during the course of the year, for the trucks, oil, that kind of stuff. And so we're saving about $150,000 to $170,000 a year. That'll put us back up around, in the end of the project, about $869,000 in the next 3 years will be accumulated back in the account. Our next major purchase for fire truck is probably 16 years away, and that's the aerial. That truck we got a plan for, because I'm estimating that truck in another 16 years, long after I'm retired, living in Florida playing golf. That truck is probably, I'm going to guess, is going to be $1.5 million. Because to replace the current vehicle is about $1 million. We paid $600,000 for it back in 1997. So that truck's going to go up in cost immensely. So the residents need to understand, we have this equipment account in the fire department, along with the fire commission and my management team. We try to save for all these major purchases. Because the big thing with me, and I brought it before the board before, is I don't want to come to you in 3 or 4 or 5 years and say, I got to replace 4 pieces of equipment. I got to replace 2 pieces of equipment. And then we're looking at $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. I want to stay away from that. So we want to rotate the inventory out, bring in new, all the modern technology, all that kind of stuff that's going to make us safe for the firefighters. I did send out 11 bids asking for proposals or requests for bids. 1 came back. 3 were thank you very much, we're not going to bid it. The others never even responded. I think probably one of the key things, or 2 of the key things is we're a KME fire station. It's like Woodhaven's a Pierce station. KME never bids at Woodhaven because they already know that it's the way it's going. And we've had great luck with KME. They're a worldwide company. They're selling trucks to China, Europe. They're like number 2 in the world when it comes to truck building. We are going to sell old Engine 3. We just changed all our aliases from numbers to engine stuff. Engine 3. Engine 3, and we're going to try and squeeze between $35,000 and $45,000 out of that truck. I think we paid about $300,000 for it about 26, 27 years ago by the time the new one comes in. But the new one's 9 months out. 9 to 10 months out. So that's what we're looking at the present time. So there is it looks like a big number, but there is some other costs in there that are not directly tied to that truck when it comes to cost. So, but it is a planned expenditure. We did hold off, and we've decided now, along with the commission, to move forward.
Well, Chief, it's a lot of money. But
I about had a heart attack.
But
the third one.
Yeah, no, don't. But you did provide me a copy. I leafed through that, saw the specs, the research that went into it, how it's going to integrate with our existing equipment. And again, you have the capital improvement plan. You time these things out. Our firefighters are all volunteers. We don't have them around the station cleaning, fixing, working on equipment. That's not their job. They're out, when they're called, they're saving lives and fighting fires.
Mr. Supervisor, that's not only is this capital replacement sheet, a time-sensitive sheet, I would guess, but this includes Scott Air Packs, helmets, boots, gear, you name it. I try to cover every major cost. Obviously, some of the small costs I can't predict, but I try to predict the big stuff, because I definitely don't want to come before this board and say, I need $5 million. So.
Questions, comments for the chief?
I'll just...
Mrs. Smith.
When I learned about this, I went down and sat with Duncan for a while and went over everything, because, when I first saw the price, I was a little shocked. But I tell you, after talking with him and after really understanding what the fire department does, and knowing that they accrue their funds for a purchase like this is really important to me. I thought, okay, I don't want to go back to the taxpayers and have to ask for more money. They're really good at having their capital replacement plan with the new technology. Plus, I can only imagine, as a volunteer firefighter, if you're not getting paid, you want to at least know that you have the best equipment at your disposal to save lives. And I think that's kind of what I walked away with the standpoint that our residents, friends, families, neighbors, and the folks that come from off island will be in good hands if anything should happen.
And we can touch base a little bit on that, Mrs. Smith, is You know, we're about a one operation a year, $1 million a year operation. If we were a career department, we would be up at least 3 to 4 million. Based on how we operate currently without manpower, we'd be up around $3 or $4 million a year as a career department, with no questions asked. So.
And you can't beat, I mean, nobody can beat your response times. Having seen it in action.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions for Chief? Mr. Malvesto?
I just want to say it's hard to believe when you look at the equipment that the fire department has, the ages of some of that equipment. It is so well maintained, and that's both the rescue trucks, the pumper trucks, the ladder trucks, everything in that everything in the firehouse is well maintained. And to think that this piece of equipment that's going to be replaced is 26 years old, it's very difficult to believe that. You have a volunteer crew that not only does the calls, but they do the maintenance on the vehicles as well. That means washing, waxing, polishing, the light maintenance. They do everything. So congratulations to your fire department, Chief.
They do a great job.
This is a big expenditure, but
it is an expense.
It'll be another 26 years before we have to look at replacing it again.
Yeah. Well, the rule is at the fire station, no matter what the call is, if it breaks the plane of the front of the doors, it gets washed. Even if it hardly even got out the door, if it breaks the plane, it gets pulled in, it gets washed. So they don't like me much, but that's okay. I'm not here to be liked.
I'll learn to like it.
Thank you, Chief.
Other comments for?
I've just got a quick comment. Duncan and I have been batting heads at every budget hearing that we've had for the last 4 years, 5 years, and he's finally moved on this thing, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy to move forward with this. And I know how conservative you are, and I know you did your homework, and I'm glad we're moving forward. We need to keep this equipment updated.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Supervisor, I just want to say, nice job, Duncan. You do keep a good control over what needs to be done over there. That equipment schedule that you have, I think it'd behoove all the managers in this township to look at that and start doing that themselves. Nice job.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, other comments from the board?
One left.
Ms. Posias?
Yeah, I can't sit here and not say thank you, Duncan, for
Thank you.
the work that you and that crew does.
Appreciate
and,
it.
The way you take care of that equipment, I'm sure the resale on this pumper will be top notch, because most folks will be fooled by its condition.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's a lot better shape than anybody else's 26-year-old truck has ever been, as far as I've seen. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions, comments from the board for Chief Murdoch? All right, with none offered, those in favor of authorizing Grosse Ile Fire Department to contract with Patton Associates, otherwise known as KME, for the purchase of a new pumper and previously discussed ancillary equipment. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. Okay, good job, Chief. Dr. Keeler, thank you. Keeping us safe. That will finish our action items. This time we'll move to the clerk's report. Mrs. Gray, you're going to give the clerk's report?
I am.
Thank you, ma'am. It's yours.
Good evening. On behalf of Clerk Ranka, the clerk's office has a few announcements pertaining to the November 5th election. Applications for absentee ballots have been mailed last week to 804 permanent absentee voters. Absentee ballots will be mailed to those voters who have returned their signed request within the next 5 to 7 days. Voters who are not on the permanent AV list may request an absentee ballot application by phone, email, or in person. They may also print one from grosseale.com/clerks page or from michigan.gov SOS elections. The Michigan election law now makes it mandatory for absentee voters to show valid picture identification when picking up their absentee ballots in person. Thusly, if you're coming in to ask for a ballot, we will request your driver's license and we will take it from you so that we can get the spelling of your name correctly in our computer and then give it back to you along with your pertinent paperwork, ballot, whatever. Voters must pick up their own ballot. The law prevents delivery of a ballot to anyone except the person that it's assigned to. We have a limited number of sample ballots available in the clerk's office, and a sample ballot is also available for viewing on grosseal.com website by clicking on sample ballot link on the homepage. I believe. If it's not on the homepage, it's on the clerk's page.
It says it's on.
Okay. Election day is Tuesday, November 5th. The voting locations will open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. And the deadline to obtain an absentee ballot is Saturday, November 2nd at 2 p.m. If you have any other questions or requests for information, please give us a call or visit us at the clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. This time we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Treasurer Van Oss.
Thank you. The August financial reports are not available. Had a pretty busy month collecting taxes. They'll be available at the next meeting, or if you want a detailed breakdown of our investment list, you can come to my office, talk to myself or Ned or Ann. We'll give you that. Monday, September 16th, 2013 was the last day to pay your summer 2013 property taxes without penalty. Tax payments continue to be accepted at Township Hall with a 1% penalty per calendar month. Please call the Treasurer's office, talk to Annette or myself regarding any payments or penalty amounts. As of today, we've collected 93% of our 2013 summer roll. Distributions to the school and the county have been made in a timely fashion. There's no more meetings of the Commerce Park Commission this month. That'll be next month. We'll have a meeting before then, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We'll move on to the trustee reports. Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. There's a zoning board of appeals meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I erroneously stated at our last board meeting that there wasn't any, and then the next day I was told there was. So I correct that. Our next DPS meeting is October the 8th, the second Tuesday of the month. I would, as I always try to do, encourage you to come out, come to a board meeting or come to a commission meeting of your choice, but come out and see your township government at work. I would also ask everybody to support the rec department on October 11th, and I'll leave the rest of that up to Mr. Malvesto to tell you what that's about. And on a personal note, I would like to congratulate my grandson, Caden Eshelman, and his Gyra freshman football team for their first victory last Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Malvesto.
Thank you. I'm going to start off by Tim Rooney's going to come up. We had some conversation, Tim and myself did, and going back a number of years ago, there was a sort of an afterglow party over here at the airport after a Groseal homecoming game, and it was pretty successful. It never came around again. So with conversations with Tim has planned on Friday, October 11th, a Groseal homecoming post-game afterglow. It's going to be at Water's Edge. It'll be immediately after the game. It'll be a $6 donation at the door. The proceeds of this afterglow is going to go to the Water's Edge all-season skating rink. Brian Sharkey from Sharkey's Tavern, we're providing food, beverage, and he's going to donate 10% of his day's proceeds to this fund. So great work, Tim. Thank you very much. I was going to wear my. You're encouraged to dress in school colors if you'd like. I was going to wear my high school letter sweater tonight, but my wife said I looked something like somebody put too much batter in a muffin tin. So suggested I not do that.
Benny Crocker's dying.
But this is really for all the classes. Show up, tell all your friends, just come on and enjoy the evening. There will be a DJ, there'll be entertainment. Tim, did I miss anything on that?
Not at all. It's something we waited till late in the summer because a lot of our community groups do fundraisers around the fall holidays, and the Education Foundation hadn't had anything planned, and then Sharkies and the staff were really enthusiastic about it, and Brian's been wanting to do an event to help us out for quite some time. So we waited till late August. Tom had brought it up, several months before that, even in the spring, but when we saw there wasn't anything specifically planned, and we didn't want to do anything before the game, because we know traditionally in Macomb Street, that's where everything takes place. But we thought 3 hours after the game, we figure the Tigers will probably still be in the playoffs. We can have the screen outside, and then after that's over, if somebody wants to go anywhere in Groseal and have a good time after that, they're more than welcome. But we thought it'd be nice, and thank Tom for coming up with the idea again, because he experienced it. But over the last few years, we've worked a lot with the education, but like I said, we didn't want to step on any toes, and looks like that's good timing.
Also, our next Recreation Commission meeting will be on Thursday, September 26th, and I think we're going to do that at, is it be here, Tim, or is it going to be at the, it'll be here, not the Centennial Farm, it'll be here. That's great. I believe that on October 6th, that'll be Sunday, there's going to be an open house at the fire department, correct, Duncan? Encourage everybody to show up. I know last time, the kids seem to get a great kick out of climbing on the fire equipment, and of course they're all, yeah, come on up, Duncan, please. Chief?
The guys want to know if all the kids can wear white gloves.
No smudges?
No fingerprints.
Give them a sponge.
I'm sorry?
Give them a sponge. Wash it when you're done.
On that note, Tom, if I may.
Sure.
A couple other things. This is the fire department's 70th year. We're celebrating this year. Also, on October 19th, we are doing a mass casualty drill with 2 other fire departments involving a whole lot of outside resources. We'd like we're not going to tell anybody what it is because we're going to surprise the guys too. They don't even know what it is. But you're going to see a lot of activity on Groseal. We want the residents not to be too alarmed. So there's going to be other fire departments out here along with a lot of other resources. And just a side note, which I found very funny, not funny, but serious. Joe and I were talking, 6 or 7 months ago, and believe it or not, Groseal Fire Department has put body armor on their ambulances, just for this particular reason, mass casualties. So first ingoing EMS people will be in bulletproof vests. Damn, the 70 years we've been here, whoever thought. So, but that's also being done.
You're going to need that if you go down around the DPW building, because that's the day of dump the junk. And the e-waste event in Woody will be waiting for you.
Yes. So, but that's kind of what's going on with the fire department right now. Thanks, Tom.
All right, thank you, Chief. I believe that's it, Mr. Supervisor.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Modesto. Mrs. Smith?
I don't have anything to report at this time, but I will mention that I've been riding my bike around, and I've been enjoying the Horse Mill Bike Path, and I'm sure Wally will tell you more about that.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Smith. Mr. Posias?
Well, I don't know if Geez, thanks, Lauren. I don't know if this is the best is the last is the best, but the most is the last. We have a lot to talk about tonight. First one is obviously the Horse Mill ribbon cutting, September 29th, 1 o'clock p.m. It will be I heard a giggle. Are you bringing your bike? Don't worry about it being done. There's enough to ride. Go west, young man. Let me give you that recommendation right now. In all seriousness, no. This is really a special thing. We haven't done a bike path in several years. And so this has been a very, very great effort by a new committee, by a bunch of new folks, and young colts and fillies that really ran hard to get this thing put together. And to balance that all out, we thought that there was a great sense of tradition to bring in some special ribbon cutters. And after conversation with our township supervisor, we've come up with 2 great names to cut that ribbon. The widow of John Neidhart, the father of the bike path system, is going to be the lady representative. And the gentleman who's going to be there, who's been there for every bike path, is Jack Delphi. So two great hands on the scissors, and I would like Eric Ranka, who's not here, and I've already talked to him, to be a part of that cutting also, because it was Eric that put a lot of this together in the beginning, and then when we switched terms and he switched commissions, I got the opportunity to wind it all up. And I played a small part in it. This bike path committee is really, really a gung-ho group of people. And they're putting together something that's going to be very, very special for you. We hope to see the Grosse Ile TV crew out there. We hope to see pictures in the EO camera. And there's a lot of exciting things that are going to happen that day. The Grosse Ile Presbyterian Church has been so gracious as to offer us accommodations for vehicles, and they're going to supply lemonade and cookies. And I think that's a really class act on their part. I'm sure there'll be a tent set up there over the path. And again, the site is right across from the Presbyterian Church, and don't pay any attention to Mr. Clark. Go west. The intersection is not done yet, will not be done by the weekend, and the contractor has a contract that says he'll have it done by November 15th, and I'll be very happy with that. I'm happy with this bike path. It's really, really sharp. You ought to go down and take a look at it. A second item on my list is the repairs to the rest of the bike paths. So this is bike path night. Those of you who have been running around the island coming down here to see this event tonight passed by several of the cuts and slashes and orange paint and caution tapes and barrels. We've got this bike path in real disarray right now, and it's following up a whole bunch of crack sealing that's been done all over the island. We're doing some seal coating, we're doing some actual surfacing or resurfacing, and we're doing some replacement in places where roots have broken up or other reasons for the path. Bottom line, folks, is we're going to have a world-class bike path system. I think we set the mark. And I'm very proud of that on behalf of everybody who's had a part in it. I look forward to Sunday, and I hope that those of you who do come down to this, if you want to bring a bike and to go do an inaugural takeoff, go west. There's lots of room for you. My third item this evening is my favorite charity, the Grosse Ile Knights of Columbus Steak and Corn Roast. This will be held on October 5th at 6 p.m. at the VFW. If you like the steak that you had at Island Fest, come on down for an encore. It's the same steaks. It's going to be the same dinner. The only difference is the place of the dinner will be different. Cooked on the same grill by the same experts. We're going to have a great time that evening. We hope that you will join us. And just in case you have an urge, I have tickets. Right? And it's $12. You can't get a good steak dinner for $12. Not like that anywhere. So please come on down. It's for good causes. Knights of Columbus is a great charitable event. Everything goes to charities, and most of those charities are charities very close to our homes. The item number 4 is the October 19th and 20th Dump the Junk and E-Waste concurrent events. I'm a little concerned about the activities of the fire department, so please, don't run over anybody bringing an old computer, all right? Scare them to death with that bulletproof vest. But I'm just joking a little bit. I think you're doing a great job with that, too. But the E-Waste event is 2 days, 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, both days. It is not an exchange. It is not dump your junk and pick up somebody else's treasure. Electronic wastes come with it the responsibility for data integrity. You don't want your equipment getting in the hands of somebody else who can find out when you got your polio shot and how tall you are. That's your business, and so these folks take a pledge to recycle this material in a responsible manner so that can't happen. It's being sponsored fully by Wayne County, a 2-day event. I'm very pleased to have been able to talk them into it, so now please back me up. Bring your computers, bring your toasters, bring your old microwaves. We can't take things that have refrigerants in them, and we can't take things that have oil in them, but everything else that's got an electric cord is a pretty good chance for it being recycled, and it's going the right way. The fifth item is that the There is a vacancy on the Bike Path Committee, and if you are interested in what that committee does, we would encourage you to see Carol Knope, get an application, and turn it in. Thank you so much. Good seeing you all here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Posias. Okay, completing the trustee reports, I guess it's my turn. And just a few odds and ends. 6th Annual Grosse Ile Athletic Booster Golf Outing will be this Saturday, September 28th, 2013, at the Grosse Ile Golf and Country Club. The event will benefit the Grosse Ile Township Schools varsity athletic programs. It's a good way to help the schools raise money. And for more information, contact Dan Holmes at 284-1100. Speaking of hazardous waste, Wayne County Hazardous Waste Collection will be held on Saturday, October 12th at Southland Shopping Center from 8 to 2 p.m. There are flyers for this in the back of the room. They're also collecting electronics, and this isn't a dump the junk. This is a dump the, this will not be find a treasure. This is going to be get rid of junk. But anyway, and what you don't get rid of then, save it for our dump the junk, find a treasure, and I'll ask Mr. Clark when he approaches the microphone shortly if they're doing the metal collection. Is that a yes? Very good, good. So the point is, if you have old metal stuff, like in my case, campaign sign frames and stuff, we can make some money. They'll have a separate dumpster for metal items, and the metal scrappers will pay for it. So it will generate some funds for the township. So I will have stuff for you, Mr. Clark. Westcroft Gardens presents the 13th Annual Phantom Fest Hayrides each weekend beginning September 27th through October 27th. And you can contact Westcroft Gardens at 676-2444. St. James Rummage Sale. More of those rummage sales. Friday and Saturday, October 4th and 5th. For more information, 676-1727. Fall-themed Oktoberfest luncheon for seniors. Be on Wednesday, October 2nd, 12:30 p.m. at Centennial Farm. Tickets are $10 and must be purchased in advance at the rec department. Along with the rec, Fall Harvest Day, Saturday, October 12th, noon to 5 at Centennial Farm. This is a lot of fun. Grosse Ile Animal Shelter and Grosse Ile Garden Club host additional activities. Cost is $5 per person, $3 for those 55, for those over 55 or under 3. Contact the rec department for more information. This, if the weather seems to be always good for this, and it's just a blast. So the kids get to see all the things at Centennial Farm that they, and the parents, that they didn't know were there. So it's really a great time. We had hosted the 4th Annual Veterans Gala in Hangar 1. My thanks to the township employees, first of all, who made this event possible. Mr. Duker and the airport staff, getting the airplanes out, getting the hangar clean, making sure that we had the golf carts and stuff available. The theme was supporting and recognizing the contributions women in the service. In the 33 years I was saw dramatic changes, and it's just moving in that direction. So those of you who were there, it was a good time. We had Ron Savage from Fox 2 News. I gave him a full tour of island activities at Grosse Ile Township. He's well apprised of how we run this government, and he really enjoyed his stay here. I really enjoyed the time with him, and they gave us a really good, if you happen to see it, either later that night or the following Saturday morning, we had about a 5-minute segment, which is a lot for that kind of an event, on Fox 2. So it was great having him here. The board tonight was discussing the ongoing, I don't want to call them storage wars, but our storage dilemma and how we're going to continue on our program to clean up the island. The good news was the staff had notified some of the most obvious offenders, and those individuals began working and complying with the township up to a point. Unfortunately, it stalled, and we're not giving up on this. I mean, we have the ordinance. The most noticeable things to correct are those 4 items that you can't leave in your front yard: your boat, your trailer, your RV, or your project car. If your neighbor, it's simple. If your neighbor can see it from his picture window, it's probably in the wrong place. This is the time you're getting your boats out, you're pickling off your RVs, you're done with your summer toys, you're putting them into storage. Please don't plan to store them in front of your house. The board is very united on this issue. We want to get this fixed. We also intend to fix the rest of our storage, our blight, our property maintenance ordinances. We need your input. We need to know what you think. What's too harsh? What isn't harsh enough? Where do we need more emphasis? Where do we need less emphasis? The one that comes to mind is we have boats and watercraft. That's your basic boat with a hull and your personal watercraft. That's the extent we have. Anywhere in the state, nobody took into account canoes, kayaks, the paddle craft. Those certainly have to be, I think, considered differently. So that's one of the facets of an ordinance that I'd like to look into changing. But let us know what you think. We want to clean the place up. We've, unfortunately, I have to say, and I've some culpability, we've put it off too long. We're going to move on it, and we're not stopping. So if you can see, if your neighbor can see it from his picture window, you need to move it. And gosh, wish I could close on a better note than that, but that's it for me tonight. This I'll turn it over to wherever I left off. Dale, Mr. Riem will fill in the blank.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk to the board and the community about ordinance enforcement and what we've done. I believe it was during our June and July study sessions, the board had talked about this, and the consensus was let's start with some of the nuisance items, as the supervisor had stated, the boats, the trailers, things like that. That's probably better suited for educational type campaign. I know there have been articles in the paper and stuff on the website, and I think there's some other things that I'll touch on that will address that. And the thought was let's increase these efforts by just doing that, address these nuisance issues, and we've done so. And I'd like to report to the board of the results. Yes, progress is being made, and I believe the supervisor stated to a certain point, but it's slow. We're getting to a point, and this is just the historical, I guess, issue of dealing with violations. They all get to a certain point and say, I'm working on it, I need more time, work with me, I'll have that taken care of by that time, okay? And I'm sure some of it's very sincere, and I'm sure some of it's probably just the stretch. So, in dealing with that, we spoke about this in June and July, some of the areas and things that we needed to address. And that's, do we need to amend some of our ordinances? Possibly. Do we need to increase our fines in some of these areas? Possibly. And what are we going to do on education? There's been stuff in the paper. It was discussed about doing some mailers in the very near future for the storage type things, which we can easily do. So I guess to summarize all these different conversations that I've had with board, with members of the community, with different staff members in relationship to our efforts, how we've done this historically, and it's always been a soft sell approach, which is what we've continued doing, is now what? How do we step it up? What does the community want? What does the board want? And I guess I'm to the point where I would like to assemble some township staff members, the township attorney, a volunteer board member. Why'd you raise your hand? And iron out all these details. To do just that, iron out those details, and then bring a recommendation to the township board. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to communicate what we've done and where we are with these items. And if there are any questions, I'll gladly answer them. Or if anyone else would like to comment, please do so.
This is kind of an extension of, for a short period, we were in open session earlier before our attorney was there, before we go to closed session. We had this discussion, and again, the board is united. We have ordinances. We'll enforce the ordinances we have. We'll amend the ordinances that don't work. But this is a beautiful place to live. We want to keep it that way. When we had the open house here, was it a year and a half, 2 years ago? The room was full, and everyone here said, yes, we want to clean the island up. Of course, probably everyone there had a personal reason, because may or may not be living next to a less than desirable site. And one person said, we shouldn't have any blight ordinances. One. But everyone else was like the board. We want to clean the place up. I'm sure those of you who take the time to come here tonight want to see your community cleaned up. It's property values, it's pride in ownership, it's pride in your community. And the broken window theory of Mayor Giuliani, if you look away from a broken window, then there's another one, then there's another one, and it's not too long before it becomes very difficult to control it. And we might be on that. I don't think we're on that cusp, but we're going to work on it. We're going to get it cleaned up. So if we haven't enrolled Mr. Budney yet, you can count on my support for that.
He did raise his hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Rim. All right, it's that time for public comment. Any topic, you have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself. And I will invite Mr. Clark, the veteran.
Let's see if anybody can guess what this is. Well, okay, legal fees.
Legal fees on the warrant list dated 9/20/2003 were to Shay Mack K. Esquire for the Myosha case in the amount of $1,050.
Okay, bike path, low areas, and the new bike path. Had a resident call me, says it's collecting water. Ron J. Talked about the bike paths before, talked about fixing them, and now you are fixing them. Who's in charge of making sure the bike path is flat? Is it the construction person? Is it Rains? Who is it? Where's the buck stop?
Mr. Supervisor, permission to?
By all means.
This is a bike path.
Sound.
Sound is on.
Can't hear you. I can hear that, but you can't hear your dog.
This is a bike path.
Right?
It is not an airport runway.
Okay.
It is not a pool table. It goes up and down and left and right. And it's narrower in some places than others. And it's closer to the road in some places than others. But it is a path, Woody. Number
Okay.
one. Number two, if there is water collecting on the path, simply coming up and saying there's water collecting on the path is of little help to me. You need to let me know precisely where you see puddling, and we have an open project, which is not done yet, which means that if there is a place where water is collecting, we have an opportunity to fix it before we close it
How do you
out.
want me to mark it?
You got a GPS?
No, I mean, how do you want me to mark it on a bike path?
Let me know when you're going to go there, and I'll go with you.
Okay.
All right? Let's find this out. But to just,
Yeah, I understand, but somebody called me and told me.
that's an
they said
unrealistic
they mark it.
expectation.
I don't know exactly they mark it.
I know who the call came
Okay,
from.
you know who it is. Okay, you can call him and ask him that.
I just want to address a comment you made. If we were to do topographical bike paths
I understand.
to terrain, it would cost
A lot.
10 times a mile more than it costs to
Okay.
just go with the contour of the
The
land.
resident called me, that's all I'm doing is passing it
Well,
on.
and I'm telling you and whoever called you that it is not economically feasible to build a bike path and address all those issues. You're going to have low spots, you're going to have high spots. They go along the ground. Whatever
I
was
know.
there before are going to be there.
Okay.
Now, we'll try to address those areas, and we have in several cases where we get a lot of water collecting.
Yeah.
We'll attempt to correct that with drainage, and we've done that
Okay.
in a lot of spaces. But we're certainly not going to spend 6 or 8 times the money for a bike path.
I don't blame you. Okay, I'm hearing there's a viewing structure, Natural Land and Conservancy is building to look out north of Bridge, west of Meridian.
Yes, they had the land use approval for that.
And they're gonna look out over contaminated water and land?
I'm not sure. I'm not in a position to say if it's
Okay,
contaminated.
when you're looking out across the river where it is, on the other side, that's all contaminated.
As I recall, there's kind of a low marshy area it's going to look over, and then
Okay.
open river on beyond that.
Okay. Would be nice if we can get straightened out your emails.
How are we going on the transition project? On
My report today was fine.
yours is working?
Everybody's is working now,
Everybody's-
Woody.
So I'm getting all yours back.
Well, you don't have the right email. They changed the email addresses. Did you get the new email address?
What is the new email address?
Some of the elected officials were changed, but now we have the advanced version, maybe blocked.
Well, I didn't block you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I know you did.
I didn't block you.
Duncan got blocked, Joey got blocked.
If you call me tomorrow, I'll give you my new email address.
You got a new email address, Joey?
No, mine's the same.
Grosseal.com.
Absolutely.
It comes back. It keeps coming.
You are not blocked. You're not blocked.
Okay, well, it's still coming back. Dump the junk. October 19th and 20th, 9 to 4. And Wally brought it up, electronics, you can bring electronics too. Next meeting, I'll tell you what you can't bring paint and all that liquid stuff. Anybody guess where that is?
Oh,
That's your retirement home?
Yeah.
Montreal.
Okay, no, 1889.
Looks like the old inn or a hotel in North End of the island.
No, yeah, it was, sure. This is a general view of the buildings and grounds of the Detroit International Fair and Exposition, 1889. Now, where do you think it was?
Sugar Island.
We're close. Del Rey.
Well, how far they've come. Okay, continuing the public comment. Still want to?
Anyone else first?
You're it, Mr. Hocking.
Jonathan Hocking, 8620 Stout.
You had it right, there you go.
Do you adjust, you can't? I want to make a announcement. I'm actually coming here instead of my meeting that is around the same time as this board meeting is on Mondays. It's a call, ladies and gentlemen, a call for an international People's Assembly against the banks and against austerity. It's going to be Saturday and Sunday, October 5th and 6th, 2013, Detroit, Michigan, USA. They're going to have discussion groups and maybe some protest. I will try to maybe answer questions, and anybody on Grosse Seal ask some questions. If they have questions, I'm going to try to be in the bakery tomorrow. It's Tuesday and Wednesday morning early. Hopefully I can get there and ask any questions. This is it's going to be in Grand Circus Park area, and they might change that. And it's Woodward and Adams. It's at a Central United Methodist Church, and that's at 23 Adams. So it's going to be near that church on the west side of the park. So if anybody is interested, it is a progressive groups from the center all the way center, Green Democrat, Green Party, Socialist, and further left. And I would suggest if there's any counter groups or anything, they could probably go to the other side of the park. It's not absolutely going to be held at Grand Circus Park, but that's what they're gearing at, and it's going to be at October 5th and 6th. That's on a Saturday and Sunday, probably all day. I attend sometimes. I go to church when I can at Central United Methodist Church near Woodward and Adams, right in front of Comerica Park, or Jelly's Chili Bar. It's hooked to the back of the church, and that's the oldest congregation, Protestant congregation in Michigan. And if you don't believe me, you have to research the old pictures of Detroit, and it's actually there. So it was founded, the congregation was founded in 1810. And any questions, and like I said, I don't want anyone out in the audience to maybe go with groups or parents, or maybe the church service starts at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays now. And then if anyone's like going to game or wanted to go to church or walk around and stuff, but I would, any information, try to contact me, Jonathan Hocking. I'll try to be in the bakery tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning and Wednesday, tomorrow and Wednesday. I have somewhere to be Thursday. And any questions I can answer. I do politically, like you had questions about this or my political stance. I'm a kind of a flip-flopper. I'm an independent or libertarian. I'm center to the right of here, and so I'm kind of like Ron Paul, and I do have some a little bit of a liberal streak down my back, but I am, like I said, center to the right. So thank you very much, and please, I have other phone numbers or other information if you want to know details on what groups you're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hocking. Yes, sir. Mr. Granda.
Ernie Granda, 27176 Meridian Road. The last few years, I've noticed, I drive down along East River Road quite a bit, West River Road too, and I haven't noticed that I have seen, maybe they are there, but I don't see them, any broods of mallard ducks. Nothing, last 3 years. In my area, the raccoons seem to be getting a little bit overpopulated, and I've noticed, not this year, I didn't see one on raccoons. I didn't see one on Sugar this year, but I saw one on Celeron, and I saw one on a Livingston Channel dike. And there's this during the daytime, and they're like begging. Now, somebody's caught these things in live traps, and they've taken them out and released them on these islands, thinking they're getting rid of the raccoon from their molesting their garbage, and they don't realize the damage they're doing to the wildlife population, ground nesting birds and some tree nesting birds. Raccoons got a good nose. If you just want to see how easy they can find an egg, just set out an egg out in your front yard, and it'll be gone tomorrow. You know, I mean, they love eggs, and it's beautiful seeing all the swans and stuff. You know, the goose season started and stuff, and scared them away a little bit. But it really is a picturesque scene, seeing all the swans hanging around the island. I'm sure that's quite an attraction to some people. But anybody who's got a raccoon problem, they got to deal with it some other way than to put the raccoon. I don't know how. I don't have any answers. But they got to do away with them or removing them, other than putting them on the island. The islands like Stony and Sugar, and then on the dikes. Yep. Because they are screwing up the ecology. I can't prove it, but I see a lot of raccoons out in mid-daytime, and you know, I lived on the river for 20 years, and I didn't see any raccoons out in the daytime, ever.
No, you should not see raccoons during the day. Have you talked to Ms. Cordes, Julie Cordes, our animal control officer?
No, but I had talked to Laura just to ask her a few things, and she mentioned, you know, the fox snakes eat quite a few of them. And I found nests of ducks when I was younger. I'd go running around Stony Island and stuff, and I found nests of ducks have been predated by snakes. You know, the snake could be right there. There's nothing you could really do. The mother duck's chased away. He's not going to come back, and I don't like killing snakes, so I just leave them alone. But there's only a couple times I've seen it. I've seen it only once, and another guy reported that he had my dad had a boulder down there that he'd come across the duck nest that a snake was eating. In fact, he brought the snake back and a bunch of duck eggs back. But that's just about all I wanted to say. That there's got to be some way to get rid of these.
Well, I'll contact.
I don't know
Ms.
what
Cordes.
I don't know what the answer is. But the DNR would recommend, rather than relocating raccoons that are problems, is euthanizing them.
I'll talk to the DNR before I recommend that.
But I'm sure nobody wants them. that if you're.
I don't recommend them as
if
pets.
you're live catching them and, nobody else wants them in their neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Granda. Other comments from the public? All right, with none offered, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, support. Yeah, moved by trustee Malvesto, seconded by trustee Budney. Those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Motion carries. We stand adjourned at 9:15. Thank you, everyone, for coming. See you in 2 weeks.